What's up, everybody, and welcome to One Man's Opinion. And today we're talking about The Witcher Season 2 specifically. We might get into a little bit of Season 1 talk, probably not much. A couple of things before we really get started here, something you should know. Though I am a big fan of the Netflix series The Witcher, I haven't had a chance to really play the games. I haven't really had much of that lore that comes from the games or any of the books. I'm pretty sure there are books about The Witcher. I haven't had a chance to read any of that background stuff. And so if you're looking for like a guy who's going to sit down and talk about the comparisons of the characters from one medium to another, I'm not really the guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Okay. I'm just here to talk about the TV series as it is and give my takes on what I've seen. I can't really talk about, if one character isn't how he should be based on another medium of entertainment. So if that's kind of what you're looking for, I'm sorry, this isn't probably the right place. I'm just here to talk about the series itself. Also, I have trouble with the names. I have trouble in real life remembering people's names that I've known for years sometimes. I'm just not good with names. And so when you sit me down and you have a show going like The Witcher, there are names that I am just not good at remembering for very important characters sometimes. So I will throw up pictures for the characters that I'm talking about if I'm having trouble remembering the names, but you might hear me say like that guy or that girl, a lot. So those are just some little warnings ahead of time as I go into this. But diving right into it, man, The Witcher Season 2, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to move through things pretty quickly. Number one, I try to talk about some of the negatives, and I don't know if I would really even consider this a negative. I guess the first warning I would give to someone who was a fan of Season 1 is that Season 2 feels like there's a lot less action in it. So if like you're a big Witcher guy but you love it for the action, Season 2 may not be your favorite season because the action is a little slower. There's a lot more character building. There's a lot more world building that goes on in this season. And I don't personally think that that's a bad thing, but I could see where someone who preferred the action of The Witcher Season 1 would be a little upset. This season definitely slows down the pace a little bit. The last season was almost episodic, and it would bounce from character to character quite a bit throughout episodes, and then almost had like a monster per episode that Geralt would end up fighting for a large majority of it. I'm not saying every episode was that way, but a large majority of it was that way. This one is certainly not that way. Even the fights that you do get are often short-lived, I would say, until the very end of the season. The last episode or two, you get a little bit more drawn-out fights toward the end, especially there in the climax and the finale as everything kind of comes to a head. So the action is there, but definitely spending more time with characters, spending more time learning a little bit about the world, about the I guess you would say the Witcher universe that it's in. And I certainly learned a lot watching this season, and I've really enjoyed it a whole lot. And that'll kind of springboard me into my first positive. I think the storytelling of this show is magnificent. I think it does an excellent job drawing you into this world. And even though there are a lot of questions and like I don't always know where I'm even at, like the show kind of bounces from place to place and you just got to kind of hold on and just go with it. And I would say maybe that's to the show's detriment. It wouldn't bother me if they would do kind of like Marvel does and show like the name of the city at the bottom. When they bounce from place to place, that sure would help. I understand why you don't want to do like a time period or anything like that. That would mess up the twist of the first season a whole lot. And maybe at times showing where they were would mess up a twist or two. And so maybe I understand why they haven't done it. But for the most part, it would be very helpful to someone like me who has a hard time remembering names, especially more difficult names that you get in this show from time to time. Right off the jump, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Henry Cavill. The man, there was a time long ago when I thought I didn't like Henry Cavill very much. And then I came to understand I just didn't like the Superman movie very much that he got. I think that the DC comic book movie writing for a while was bad, and I think that wasn't Cavill's fault. Going back and even rewatching those movies, Cavill gives it his all. And that's what I love the most about him. He's very into the role, he's very into the world. You can tell he has passion for this project, for this world, for this character. And he puts it into the role. He throws his body around a lot. I understand just from little things that I've seen. He does a lot of his own stunts, and he has a lot of fun doing those things. I've seen some interviews with the guy, and you can really tell that even like outside of the role, he's got that nerdy side. You know, he loves to play video games and stuff like that, and so he really has a passion for this role that bleeds through onto the screen, and he does such a good job. I mean, he really, you lose him in this role. There's no resemblance to like Superman. Like some people, and I'll just use this as an example. This isn't a bash on Ryan Reynolds, but Ryan Reynolds is like always the same character. Like whether he's Deadpool or whether he's, you know, playing somebody else, is like always the same guy. There's no resemblance to Superman in Geralt. But it's the same great actor doing an amazing performance. And to say that, let me just go ahead and take the next step forward. A lot of the acting in this show is very, very good. Fantasy shows to me scare me a lot because I would say until the last few years, every time I watched a show like this, I was like, the acting's horrible. Like you put fantasy to paper and you get bad acting 9 times out of 10. Now I know like The Lord of the Rings was fantastic and the acting wasn't bad there, but also that was like a huge budget film. That was like a big project, right? But a lot of times you get like a fantasy-based TV show and the acting isn't good and the effects aren't good. And I will say that there are brief moments where the CGI might fall flat, but even for the most part, I would say the CGI holds up really, really well in The Witcher. So good visuals, great acting across the board. The girl that plays Ciri does an awesome job. She does a fantastic job. There are moments in this show, even some of the more supporting characters have emotional moments in this season that are just feel so well earned, and you feel those moments. They go a long way to really make this feel realistic in a way that, and I say realistic in a way that I mean you can really grab on to these characters and sympathize about the things that they're going through. And I think the storytelling is magnificent. I think the character writing and the storytelling is the best part about this show. The action's great. It's all great. And to say that with how great the action is, to commend the storytelling over the action is even higher of a compliment for me. A few things just to kind of talk about where I'm at with the show and my thoughts, and just a few other little things. As far as characters go, I know I haven't mentioned Yennefer, and I know Yennefer's like a fan favorite. I got to be honest with you. There's not a mage on the show that I like. And let me be very clear what I mean by that. I don't think that they're bad characters. I think the character writing in this show is so good. But there isn't a mage or wizard in this show that I trust at all. I don't like any of them, and every time they're on screen, I'm just like, nah, these guys are not for me. And that's not a shot at the characters. I understand if you like Yennefer and you think she's a great character. I understand if she's one of your favorite characters and you love who she is. That's fine. It's just, for me, they all feel so slimy and grimy, which is, again, a credit to the writing. I think they're supposed to feel that way. They're very selfish. Every mage, they have this brotherhood, but every one of them are looking out for themselves first all the time. Maybe not every one of them, but the majority of them. I will say that this guy, and this is going to be another one of those times where, you know, a name gets away from me, but I do like him. He's the one mage that I'm like, I believe he does have like self-service in mind. I believe he is still kind of that selfish character a little bit, but I feel like I can trust him a little bit more, which may be setting me up for a huge like turn later, because these mages they seem to always be part of like big character turns where it was like, oh, you thought you could trust this character. Like Yennefer, I've never trusted. Not in season 1, not in season 2, I've never liked her. I always just get a bad feeling. I'm like, she's gonna do something and mess everything up, and I always feel that way about her. Which I think is, again, I think it's great, because I think they're setting her up for a huge redemption arc coming in season 3, maybe season 4. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I would love to love Yennefer. I know a lot of people love Yennefer. I've talked to friends who watch this show, and they're like, oh man, Yennefer's great. But not for me. I don't like her. I don't care for her. But that excites me, because that's how good the writing is that this fictional character I don't trust. She's not even real, but I don't trust her. So that really speaks to it. I really appreciate it. Another thing that I really liked about this season was getting to meet some of the other Witchers, getting to know all the other Witchers and Geralt's mentor, and meeting those guys. They did such a good job. I know you only really get to know like 2 or 3 of them, but those 2 or 3 that you really get to know, they do a really good job of giving them all their individual personality. They don't just feel like copy-paste, grunty Witchers. They don't feel cookie-cutter at all. They all have their own individual personalities. You know what to expect from them, and I think that's really good. Characters who don't get much screen time, but you still have a good feel for their personality. I would say that the mage lady who ends up helping the elves, man, she is a piece of work, isn't she? Oh, my goodness. She's something else, and I am excited to see where she goes and where the Black Knight, that guy who's with her, and I'm sorry again, I'm so bad with the names, but I'm so excited to see where their story goes, because that ending twist with the White Flame being Ciri's father was nuts. That was crazy. I had no idea that was coming. Of course, not knowing the world, not being super familiar with the world, I try to take myself out of it. I turn my brain off a lot with this show, and I think that's part of the reason I enjoy it so much. I don't try to guess. Like, a lot of times, if I'm sitting down and I watch a movie that I know probably has a twist, like an M. Night Shyamalan, like the whole movie I'm picking apart everything because I'm like, I want to figure out the twist before it gets here. But I don't do that with The Witcher. I turn my brain off. I enjoy the ride, and then when the twist hits at the end of the season, I'm just like, oh man, there it was. That was it, and it was fantastic. And so, top to bottom, and I know I'm leaving a lot out. I know there's a lot I haven't talked about, but I don't want to keep you here all day. I could just gush about this show, honestly. There's not much for me to pick apart. There's not much I want to complain about. I'm stoked for Season 3. I hope it gets here a little faster than Season 2 did. Other than that, man, The Witcher Season 2 was great. Was it as good as Season 1? I think it was better. I think though you had a drop-off of action, I think that the time spent with characters, it slowed down a little bit. It paced itself. It built the world. It built the characters. I think the payoff at the end was really good. Is the twist at the end, was the finale as good as last season's finale? Maybe not. I had no idea. With like the different timelines and stuff, that was crazy. That was masterfully done. Like, honestly, I know that didn't come like right at the end, but like, as you kind of figured out that like events weren't happening as you saw them, it was like, oh, that's really smart. That's brilliant. And that was great. But I think the storytelling took such a step up this season. Even though the storytelling was great last season, I feel like I'm growing with the characters more. I'm growing with the world more. And that could just be a result of more time spent in the world, which means that Season 2 would have always had an advantage. But they could have leaned into the action and the monster killing. They could have leaned into, Henry Cavill being the all-star and just gave him the screen time and didn't do much for the other characters. They could have done all that, but they didn't. They took a step back, and they give every character their moment, and they let you grow with these characters and learn more about them. And I think it's astounding, and I think it's only taken a step up. Last season, I was so pumped by the end of it to see Season 2, and I'm right back there, ready for Season 3. So it's all really good stuff, and I have nothing to complain about. I didn't do a review of Season 1 because I didn't have the channel yet when it came out. So comparatively, I would have wanted to give Season 2 a higher rank now, but had I done a Season 1 then, I probably would have given it a super high rating because I loved it so much then too. So I don't know how one is better than the other with both being so really, really good, but I think I would slide edge Season 2 over Season 1. Having said all that, I'm giving The Witcher Season 2 a 97 overall. All right, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of The Witcher Season 2. Let me know what you thought about Season 1. Let me know some predictions for the upcoming season. I know that the third game goes into the wild hunt a little bit, so I feel like that they're headed that direction. You heard it mentioned a few times in the second season. They're probably headed in that direction, but then again, like I said, I don't really know the timeline for the video games very well or for any other mediums, and so I could be completely wrong. We could be a long way from there based on like the timeline of the series of events, and I don't know how much it even matches up toward those other mediums. So who could say? I don't know. Maybe you know more than I do. Just don't. If you do know where the story is heading, like definitively, I would ask that you please leave like major spoilers, like if you know that like after the third, like after a certain point in time, a certain main character is going to die, you know, or something along those lines. Please leave like major spoilers out of the comments. But if you just want to like bat around ideas and like thoughts on where the show's going or how the show's doing and you know how you felt about, you know, acting or camera work or CGI or any of that stuff, you know, let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested to hear some other opinions on this. If you disagreed with what I had to say, don't get mad. Remember, this is all just one man's opinion. Thanks.